Hey everyone, we're just waiting for Maria to come into the room and we can get started. Tonight's conversation is going to be really good. I think you guys are going to enjoy. I accept this girl. Oh, there you are.
Hello. You know, I'm here kicking and screaming.
I don't know what Instagram is doing to me, but you know, it's okay.
Let's get started because we don't have time.
We don't have time to waste. All right. Hello, everyone. I hope you all had a safe and fun Thanksgiving. Welcome back to another segment of the Embrace Her Legacy live show featuring myself, Isis, and founder and CEO, Maria Melendez. So tonight, we are going to be talking about making the most of the season that you're in. We're all in different parts of our lives, and everything is changing around us, whether we know it or not, or whether we like it or not. So let's explore that. We're going to dive into that. As always, this is a donation opportunity, so you can text EMBRACE to 844-701-5181. We'll also drop our Cash App tag in the comments below. And if you want to learn more ways to support and donate to Embrace, it'll be in our Instagram stories daily, and it's also on our page at Embrace Her Legacy.
I'm over
You
here
have anything
myself
to
together, making me a cup of tea while I'm on the Instagram.
This is the real raw version of Marie.
I'm ready to go.
I'm excited.
When you are.
All right. So, question number 1, making the most of the season that you're in. So I feel like my life is changing, but I feel like I'm not ready for that change and I'm scared. So what advice would you give to me?
Change is the inevitable part of life. Like, there's always going to be change. Does that make sense? Like, change is the only constant in life. You're going to constantly go through changes in life. So honestly, I would change my mind frame about it and really focus on what is that season or the change trying to come teach me. Does that make sense? Like, I would focus more on that as opposed to being scared of it. Does that make sense? What do you think about that?
I feel like change is inevitable, and it is something that you can be scared of. Like, I know that. I don't like change because it's uncomfortable, and I feel like people just have to get used to that. Like, you can't progress and you can't grow like how you want to if you're not going to allow yourself to be scared. And when you sit back and you realize, oh, everything I wanted is now in front of me, it's like, okay, I was scared for no reason because it was going to happen for me anyway. So I would just say let life happen, let the change happen, because regardless whether it feels like it's bad in the moment or whether it's really amazing, it's supposed to be happening in that way. So just let it happen.
I agree 1,000%. You understand what I'm saying? Like, let me tell you one thing about this life. You can't control a lot of things. Like, you can focus only on what you can control. And what you can't control, you can't control. That's period. Like, you understand? I think too, like, you want to also address like what's driving your fear, you know? And then like, there's a thing, something in thought therapy we do is called it's a thought therapy, and I learned it's like creating a new evidence-based thought. So whatever you're fearing, like there's a gremlin in your mind telling you this is going to happen, or this is a bad situation. But what evidence can you use to develop a new thought? So the change may be, I'm about to graduate college and I don't have a job and blah, blah, blah. I don't know what's going to happen, but you know what? I'm about to graduate college. Things are indeed about to change, but you know, something incredible could happen. I could be walking into a new, beautiful opportunity. You understand what I'm saying? So I feel like you have to like adjust how you're thinking. Obviously, work with a therapist. For me, find an anchor too. Like, you have to find something to anchor yourself in that's bigger than you. So for me, obviously, it's my faith, my faith in God, you know what I mean? Have a support system that's rooting for you, and, you know, journal, reflect, document the new season. So that's what I would say. You know, like, try to make the most of it. Try to go with it as the most healthiest and positive way that you can.
So all of those suggestions that you just said, like, would that be a way that you would
Yeah.
embrace your
Like,
change?
I think, like, change can be a good thing, and it can be a good thing and a not so good thing. Like you said, for others, I don't want to say good, bad, but you just have to adjust your mind frame about it. So, one thing about seasons is that they always change. So right now, you like, oh my God, this is a season that it's gonna change. Whatever new season you're in, it's not always gonna be like that. So I would try to, like, embrace it by getting quiet, trying to learn and discover what this new season is, was trying to teach you. Seasons changing are an indicator of some growth happening. So embrace whatever the change is, or whatever it comes with. You know, we can't always explain everything that happens, and we have to be okay with that.
That's very, very difficult to do, let me tell you. Letting things happen and just letting it change in front of you, and you're just like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
can't navigate this. I literally just have to let it happen in front of me. So I feel like a way to really embrace that change,
Mm-hmm.
I like documenting the things that go. I can see when I'm at
Yeah.
that end, go like, wow, I had all these things going on. I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
worried, and look at me
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But change is hard. Like, when you're used to things and you don't want to get rid of that routine, it is really difficult. So, is there something wrong with being comfortable?
I think we got to choose our words right. I think we got to go from wrong to, it can be unhealthy to be comfortable for too long, because it's okay to be comfortable, but eventually it'll get interrupted. You want to know why? Because you're going to have to get to the next level of your life. You're not going to get to the next level of your life without some sort of discomfort, you know? Yeah, you know, to get you to become who you wanted, who you were created to be, and what you got to do, you are going to have to experience some level of discomfort, you know? And being uncomfortable isn't always a negative thing. Does that make sense? Because when let's say you're working out for the first time, it's going to hurt
Hmm.
the next day, 2, 3 days later, because you're being stretched. So I would say, try to look at it from a different thing and saying, like I said, is me being comfortable for too long essentially stunning my growth? Because it is. You
Hmm.
know, it is. That's how
Hmm.
I said
For me,
that's how I feel. What do
say it
you
again.
think?
For me, when I think about being comfortable, it always takes me back to like conversations that you have with your homegirls, where they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, you need to leave him. You're too comfortable, X, Y, and Z." So when I think about just the aspects of life, I'm like, "Yo, like, if you're in a situation where you feel like
Yeah.
you're stagnant and you can't go anywhere, or like you feel like there is no better than where you're at, then
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that could be a way to be comfortable." So it's like sometimes you have to sit and evaluate,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like, am I stunting my growth? Like, am I being in this space in my life, like, am
Mm-hmm.
I blocking my blessings? I feel like when you're used to a routine and it's good for you and it's healthy for you, that's great. But it's like there's so much more out
Mm-hmm.
there. So why aren't you tapping into that? And then it falls back to that fear thing. But it's just like, are you willing to take that risk to be at that next level, or are you just gonna sit
Yeah.
there and just, let life play out day by day, same
Mm-hmm.
routine? And I get bored quick.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just be scared. So I don't necessarily think that there's anything
Mm-hmm.
wrong with being comfortable, but I just,
Yeah.
to what extent? Like, what are you willing to sacrifice to stay in that place? And it's like you're sacrificing that next level, and it's like,
Right.
is it worth it in that way? So I don't know, but that goes into my next question because change starts with you. So what does that mean to
You
you?
know, Michael Jackson had a song about it. It's called Man in the Mirror. Like, you understand what I'm saying? there's no way to change. If you want to see change, the change has to start with you. Like anything in your life, change happens when you decide to change, or life forces you to change. That's a whole nother story. And it's like change is ignited by a decision, and then it's followed by a process. That's what people need to understand. Change is followed by a process. So, you know, the change starting with you is literally about you making the decision to change and surrendering to that process of change. And then, you know, even if you want to impact the lives of others, if you can't impact your own life, if you can't lead your own life, how can you lead and change, help other people change? You know? So, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So what do you think? What do you think about change starting with you?
I think change starting with you is exactly like what you said, surrendering to the process. And also, like, you can have people around you saying, like, oh, like, this habit that you have is not good for you, or that job is not serving you, or whatever the case may be. But it really has to be you sitting down and being like, okay, like, this isn't working for me. Like, what is my next step? So I think change, it goes back to, you've told me this before, not more so motivation, but that discipline. It's like, okay, I want this thing to happen for me and I want to change, but it's like I'm comfortable, but I gotta push forward. So I don't know. I feel like it really just starts within and doing that self work to be like, okay, I need to get out of this place. I want to elevate, and I just have to take
I
that leap of
agree.
faith.
I agree 1000%.
But I feel like change does take a toll on a lot of us. So how do you feel like you can take care of yourself mentally and physically when you're going through a change and it actually doesn't end up being as good as you thought it would be?
Change your perspective. Again, this is all about perspective. Like, well, I recently did a whole reflection about the different seasons in my life. And what I realized is some seasons I thought were bad, negative, were actually seasons of me being stretched, me being pruned, tested, things I had to let go of. Like, it was actually very good for me. It didn't feel good, right? But it was very good for me. So I would say again, change your perspective, because it has to start with here first, right? Um, I would also try not to lose yourself. Like, try not to look like what you're going through. Try. I know that's easier said than done, but like, get dressed like you would normally do. Eat like you would normally do. The best that you can. Um, I would also work with a therapist where needed, to help you during that time, like mentally, you know, how do I deal with this change? And, you know, accept that it's going to be a challenge and give yourself grace in the process. Because I'm not sure who may watch this or the replay, what type of change you're going through. So give yourself grace. It's a new process. This is something new. This is change is crazy. And for me, it's faith. Like, either I'm going to have faith or I'm not. You understand? So you have to have faith that even when for me, I'm not alone. You understand? I'm not alone. You're not alone. No matter how messed up the situation is, no matter what's, and I might get emotional because no matter what we go through, we have a God that loves us. You're not alone. And He's right there with you every step of the way. So when you ain't got nothing else, sometimes your tears and you cry out to God and say, God, I don't know what's happening, but I'm going to trust you to walk me through it. That's how you get through it. That's how you got to be anchored that there's an immortal being that loves you far beyond you could ever be loved. Who got your back? And that is what it is. That's Maria's answer. Somebody else might have a different answer, but that's Maria's answer.
I love
Yeah.
that answer. That was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is a hard question because I'm in that season right now where not that it's more so bad, but it's
Yeah.
not looking like how I want. So I feel like for me, I'm a perfectionist. I like to map things out. And then all of a sudden when that checklist or that plan that I
Mhm,
had is like kind of
mhm,
crumbling down, I'm just
mhm.
like, oh, what do I have to do? So I think for me, how I keep myself together physically, I am not a gym girly, but I like to do yoga. I like to just have my candles. I'll listen to music that makes me feel good and I'll just stretch just because I'm like, you know what? If I can't shake this feeling of stress or if I can't shake this bad thing that's going on in my life, I can fake it till I make it
Mhm.
and stretch it out. For me, I don't I don't pray per se, but I do just speak a word to myself and I do speak a word to God. I don't know if you would call it praying, but I guess you can say it's that. Just be like, when I feel like I need that extra hand, I'll do that because it really just gives me comfort because going through change and it's not working how you want, it's very frustrating and it does get
Mhm.
uncomfortable. Tears do become shed. Like, it's really a difficult thing to be into. So I feel like taking care of yourself mentally is important. Getting into therapy if you can and wherever you see fit is also really important. And just talking to somebody about it because, like I said, everybody is changing. Everyone's life is changing. It might be different. You might be in two different lanes, but you guys can still bond over that sense of like, yo, we're changing together. We're doing this together. So I feel like, incorporating your friends or your family or people that you trust into that change because you don't have to go through it alone. You do have a higher power. You do have a God that loves you and cares for you and will support you. And you also have people in your life that will do the same. So I feel like
I
that's
agree.
also very important.
I agree.
So, has there ever been a season that you've gone through in life that changed you for the better or
Woo!
that you
Summer
really enjoyed?
2021. Oh my God, that was I fell in love that summer. That was my beauty for ashes. That summer, I wasn't happy because I had a man and there's this new man in my life. It was because I felt like God
Mhm.
gave me something that I thought I would never see again. To be very honest, I thought because I had such a deep love in my previous relationship for so long, I was like, all right, God, I had really, let's talk. Let's have girl talk. I was telling this to a friend last night. Like, I had come to a place where I said, if marriage and children are not in my destiny, I was accepting that. Like, that's how I had got where I was like, well, maybe this isn't me. You understand? Maybe it's not going to be for me. And I kind of make some sort of peace with that. But baby, God came and smacked me in the face in the summer. And he was like, ah. So for me, it wasn't because, oh, yeah, I had this guy, who I love and I still love dearly. Um, it was just like, I felt like God saw me and gave me something that I didn't even ask for, that I had kind of lost hope on. And when he gives you back, one thing about God, and when things are restored in your life, when you get that opportunity again, it's always 200 times better. And it was 200 times better. That was the best season so far, and the best summer of period, hands
Mhm.
down. Never was there a time in my life where I have been happier.
Oh, that's so sweet.
What about you? A season
That is
that
so
you
sweet.
enjoyed?
A season that I really enjoy. Well, I don't want. It was two things. It wasn't enjoyable. It was something that I had to push myself to do, and then it ended up making me blossom into what I wanted to be. And it was always in me, but I just didn't tap into it. So transitioning from high school to college and not just a city college, like going away for school and being on my own, I feel like my last year of high school was not the best for me, like in terms of like friendships and just drama. And don't get me wrong, like I did the whole prom thing, I did like the senior activities, but it really wasn't doing much for me. I feel like that season of my life was just not a happy one, like how it should have been. I was so proud of myself for graduating, but I really didn't have that social aspect that I really wanted. And it was great for my first 3 years of high school, but it like plummeted my last year. So I felt like I lost a sense of myself, and I'm like, whoa, I have this college I'm going to, I'm getting this diploma, but I don't feel fulfilled. So going to college and feeling like I had a fresh start, it was that season really did something for me. Went to a school 8 hours away, no one knew me. Didn't really have a exact idea of what I wanted to do, but it's like this is my space to explore. It really made me tap into a piece of myself that I knew I always had, but was too afraid to open up and tap into. So making friends, going to the gym, joining clubs, speaking to my professors, even though in high school I was like, oh, like if I have this bad grade or whatever the case may be, I'm just gonna let it be. But like really blossoming into that woman and even that mini businesswoman that I wanted to be, but just was too afraid to do. So I feel like that transitional season from high school to college really changed me, and it was super enjoyable because I would not be the lady that I am today if I didn't step out of that shell and say, hey, I'm going to be myself as authentic as possible
Yeah.
because these people don't know me. So this gives me the
Right.
opportunity to show you this is who I
Correct.
am. Take it or leave it.
Good. Good. I
That
like
was really
that.
enjoyable.
Seasons. They always change.
Not only do the seasons of life change, but even seasons like the holiday season that we're in. And even though things go great for us, this holiday season could be really triggering for some people, whether it's financial issues or you lost a loved one and this might be your first holiday without them. How do you walk through that type of season, that holiday season, with grace?
First, every season has an expiration date. Every trial has an expiration date, meaning that there will be a time when things do get better. So that's one thing. Two, give yourself grace as a gift. And that means you just receive it, and be honest with yourself that it's going to be challenging. Like, this is going to be hard. This is hard for me. Receive the grace. And the definition of receive is to come into possession of, to permit to enter. Like, we say give ourselves grace, but have you given it to yourself? Have you allowed it to enter? And grace, the definition of grace is an act or instance of kindness, courtesy, or clemency, a temporary exemption. Like, give that to yourself as a gift. And, during them times, surround yourself with love and support. Again, anchor yourself in something bigger than you, and do the best you can, one day at a time. One day, one moment at a time. That's it.
And that's very, very true. The holiday season is
Yeah.
just like a weird, only because it's like, you might have to be around those family members that you're not too fond of, or you have a job and you're working hard, but it's like you might not be able to make ends meet for like Christmas gifts and stuff. So it is a hard season. But I agree, you have to give yourself grace. You have to be kind to yourself, supporting yourself in a sense of having those good people around you. And it's just like, even though it might be a weird season for you, just trying to make the most out of it. There's so many fun things you can do. There's a lot of different shows you can go to for free. There's ice skating places that you can go to for free. Like, just making the most of that season. And if it is your first season that you have without that special someone, that special loved one, just being around the people that remind you of them and that you guys can reflect and talk about them. I know when my grandpa passed a few years back, when my family got together, we were like, oh, let's have his favorite dessert or let's have his favorite hot chocolate, and it just makes you feel good. So just tapping into those small things that make you feel good is really fun.
That's really good. I like that. Doing things to commemorate people. That's good.
So not only the holiday season, but I'm going to ask you this, because I know people have mixed reviews about this. Do you feel like the seasons can alter someone's mood or their habits? I know a lot of people know it as seasonal depression. So how can someone go about
first and
dealing with
foremost,
that?
it's real. I think, like, it's less hours of light and it's cold. Like, it's literally dark at 5 o'clock. Like, of course that's going to bring people's spirits down. Like, even and yesterday, like, and it's been like dreary and raining in New York. Like, it's like, oh, you wake up in the morning, like, oh my, like, you understand? So that does have an effect. I would say if this is something you really struggle with, work with a therapist. Kind of like do preventative measure. Work with a therapist ahead of time. And if like, try to do something to invigorate you, like lighten up your living space. Like, if you're gonna be home more, like, I don't know if you can see, like, I have like my LED lights. Like, try to make your life, your space more lively, more like liven it up again. Like, even if something I think I'm doing this season too is for my winter wardrobe, I'm going for light colors. Like, I'm wearing pink coats. I'm going to have white boots. Like, do things that uplift your spirit, Get with family and friends, people whoever your loved support system is. And then, like, what motivates me are goals. So get a list of goals that you want to work on in front of you and start working on them. Like, this is a time where a lot of us are a little bit more relaxed. So if you want to take, a little home and focus, if you want to take that online course, you want to go back to school, you want to learn how to, so whatever it is, like, you want to save your money, you want to raise your credit score, whatever it is, I would do it. Get a list of 5 to 10 goals and focus on that. Yeah. Yeah, what about you?
Solid. For me, I feel like every single time it gets cold, I'm going through something. Like, internally, like, it gets dark at 5 o'clock. I'm just like, I am sad. Like, where's the hot weather at? And it's just like, I was telling you this like 2 weeks ago. Like, I'm so excited to wear my coat. I didn't mean I was excited for the dark at 5 o'clock. Not what I was including. But it's something about the winter time that makes me like, oh, I want to put my coat, my nice scarf on. So I feel like even though I am a little bit more dreary because I feel like
Yeah.
the weather does affect people's moods. When it's raining, I feel like I'm lazy or I want to be inside. So it definitely does affect people's moods. I can talk to that. But for me, I've never incorporated light colors into my clothing. So I think that's a really cool
Yeah.
suggestion because pink is always in style and is always in season, okay? But I think this is also a really fun time of the year to have those Friendsgivings, try out that new recipe, matching PJs, whether it's with your friends or your family. So many cool restaurants in the city open up that are Christmas based or just holiday based. So doing that research and finding fun things to do. I know a lot of people do those candle making classes and all things like that. For me, because I get so like dreary during this time of year, I go to Target, get a nice candle. I change my decor to make it more cozy. So I feel like taking that sad feeling and turning it into something good. Because I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna be home all day and I feel like I'm gonna be a little bit moody, I'm gonna have a nice blanket when I do it. I'm gonna have a good smelling candle when I do it. So just making the most of every situation you're in. That's the only thing that I can really
Make the
suggest.
most of it. The most of it.
Mm-hmm. So my next question is, I was just speaking to this, so I just want to hear your perspective. How do you adjust from being a young adult to an adult or a teenager to an adult and you're focusing on these transitional seasons? Like, how
First,
do
you
you
have to
maneuver
accept
that?
responsibility for yourself, for your actions, your thoughts. You can't be immature. There's a difference, like, when I was a child, I thought as a child, but when I grew, I threw away childish. I got childish things, something like that. You have to do that. Like, maturity comes with
Mm-hmm.
acceptance of responsibility, not with age. So you could be 50 and be very immature. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to learn how to take
Mm-hmm.
accountability and be responsible with your time, your money, your decisions. Like, you can't think like a little kid. You got to get out your emotions. You can't be, like, stop doing childish things.
Mm-hmm.
Communicate your emotions in a healthy way. If you are still hanging up the phone on people, blocking people because they said something you don't like, you can't speak to your coworker that you have an issue with in a healthy manner, you got some work to do, you know? You got some work to do.
Mhm.
Like life, I think one of the biggest things you have to get over is letting your emotions lead you. That's childish, you know? So you have to accept responsibility, like I said, for your emotions, for your reactions, how you choose to respond to certain things. And, set some goals for this new season. If you're going into being a young adult, how does that gonna look like within the next year? It's a perfect time to start setting goals, right? It's that time of the year we start reflecting on the past year, focus on the upcoming year. So I would definitely say set some goals and then go achieve them. So what would you say about this question, adjusting from young adult to teenager or teenager, the transition?
Mhm. For that, if you're transitioning from being a young adult to an adult or just a teenager to adult, welcoming change, because turning off that childish button or just like dropping those childish ways is very difficult. I have a lot of friends that are still working on it. I myself, I know that I have some childish aspects that are habits that I need to break, and it's really difficult when no one is checking you and you feel like I'm in this season of being a teenager, being a child, that no one's telling me that I shouldn't be doing these things. No one's correcting me. So it's like when you get into these spaces where they're like, "Oh, you can't say that, or you can't do that, or you have to actually have these one-on-one conversations with people to progress, and oh, you can't speak to your coworker in that way." It's like no one, or at least in my generation, no one was correcting us in that way. We were running amok. I'm not gonna lie. So it's like for that, I would say welcome change and being open to experiencing new things that might be uncomfortable. I know for a lot of people, getting into therapy and unpacking those childish habits, what they're rooted in, and how you can move forward with them, and setting goals, but in a behavioral sense. It's like, okay, if you know that you block people because they say something that you don't like, maybe the next time you get into some sort of conflict, instead of blocking them, you address them. You're like,
Yeah.
I didn't like that. How can we go about this? Or you said this and I didn't like it, blase blase. So setting those small goals that will help you break those habits are really important, because I'm not gonna lie to you,
Yeah.
I was the one that was doing
Mm-hmm.
the blocking. It was, I'm like, okay, you said something, I don't even know, because you're blocked, you can't even say anything else. But for me, I had to grow out of that. I'm like, I'm gonna lose so many people that I think are important to me because I can't own up to my feelings being hurt and saying, hey, I didn't like that, or
Mm-hmm.
you're right, and I just couldn't take it. So just welcoming that change and being open to being in those uncomfortable situations is how you can really transition from young adult to
Mrs.
grown adult.
Mensa is me, Erica. Hey, boo. She says, be receptive to feedback. That's something really. Yeah, yeah. I gotta work on
Mm-hmm.
that too. Sometimes I'm like, I don't care, but you're right. Yeah,
I'm like
being
that
receptive.
too. I'm like,
I
okay.
get it. I get it.
Mm-hmm. So when you are doing that transition, how do you give yourself grace, especially if you've never been in these type of
Just give it to
situations
yourself.
before?
Like I said at the beginning, it's a gift. It's not hard. It's free. You ain't gotta pay for a gift. Like if I would
It's
have handed you
free.
a book and give it to you, you would take it, accept it, receive it. It's simple as that. Give it to yourself. You don't got to do anything to earn it or to deserve it.
I feel like the same way that you give people grace so easily is that same way you should be able to give grace to yourself. And a
Yeah.
lot of people, that
Yeah.
goes right over their
Yeah.
heads. Hmm. But honestly, to anyone out there that is in that transitional season and experiencing things that they haven't gone through, you're gonna see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're gonna get through it. It's gonna be fine. And when you look back, you're like, oh, I don't even think about those
Mm-hmm.
habits I used to have. I'm good
Yeah.
now. So yes, I said
Yeah.
don't be too hard on
Yeah.
yourself. 100%. Because you're learning. You're gonna have some bumps in the road. You're gonna make mistakes, and that is okay.
Yeah.
That's 100%.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Mhm. Ria, we are approaching the
Uh-huh.
end. We are at our last question. So this one, I really want to hear what you have to say about this. So, what do you understand that about this quote? There's a season for everything under the sun, even when we can't see the sun. What does that mean to you?
For me, it's there's an optimal time for everything in your life, right? There's a time for this, there's a time to heal, there's a time to war, there's a time for everything. And I feel like everything is under God's divine design, meaning that there is an optimal time. Like there's an optimal time to plant things and there's an optimal time to harvest. So the optimal time to plant your seeds, if you want to see a harvest in the fall, is the springtime, right? So that's what I mean. There's a season for everything under the sun. And it's something that's called kairos. That's a word. I think it's a Greek word. And it means it's a due season. It's an opportune time for God to act. So that's what it means. It's like there's a season for everything under the sun, even when you can't see the sun. So you can't necessarily see the sun as long as you would in the wintertime, but there's something that you do with your crops or with your grass, whatever you're trying to hurt, because spring is going to come. So wintertime, the sun may not be out, but you better be getting ready. You better be buying your seeds to plant in your garden for spring so that, they can blossom and bloom. So, that's what I believe it means. There is an ideal time for everything in your life. Everything. And like Miss Benson said, you need rough seasons to prepare for the good seasons.
Mm-hmm. 100%. I've never heard that interpretation before of this quote ever, so that's really, really interesting. Usually, whenever I see this quote, I think of it in the sense of like, there are seasons for every single aspect of your life, even if you don't understand it. Like, not being able to see that sun is not really understanding why you're going through these things, but they're happening and they have to happen for you to get to that good season. So, those rough seasons that get you to that good season. I liked
Thank
your
you.
interpretation, and that makes
Thank
a lot
you.
of sense.
Every season counts. Every season matters, So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. 100%. That was our last question, everybody.
Thank you.
That
Okay,
is
because it
it.
is late. So thank you so much. This was
Thank you for
this is
sticking with
really
us.
good.
This was
So
really fun.
I think this is our last live. It might be our last live of 2022. I don't know. We might come back in December with something. But all seasons
Mm-hmm.
not fun. No,
They're not fun.
hell
Not all the
no.
time.
They ain't. Some seasons are not as fun as others, but it is what it is. Life has to
Life
life
has to life
sometimes.
sometimes.
Okay. All righty. Well, good night, everybody. Oh, and don't forget, we have our series. It starts with her. Our series on YouTube that we just re-released, telling the story of 3 of our legends, Faith, Favor, and Mariama. It's also a part of our Giving Tuesday end of year fundraising campaign. So make sure y'all head to YouTube, watch our It Starts With Her series, and then hit the donate button on if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll probably be in the comments below how to donate. If you're watching this over on IG, it'll be in our link in bio. Anything else I says?
No, nothing else. Just keep up with us at Embrace Her Legacy on Instagram. We're always posting fun things on there. We have a bunch of fun things
And
coming out in
follow
the
us
new year,
on
so stay
TikTok too.
tuned. Oh yeah, because we getting on there
We
too.
moving
So
on
fun
there
stuff is
too.
happening on there too. Yeah. All
All
right,
right,
good night,
bye.
everyone. Thank you.